Okay, so quizzes. Please, Beth,
There are a
go.
few girls that asked me to tell you they were coming back.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
And we're going to be here for a while.
Okay.
So, quizzes are optional. Does that make anybody upset?
Makes you confused.
Makes you confused. That's normal. That's normal. As long as it doesn't upset you that they're optional. It's a little weird because I'm sure you've never had that situation before where you can choose to turn something in or not. There's a reason for it, for sure. Go ahead and tell me your name again. Nick.
Have you ever had anyone that was upset about that?
At the first day, yes. By halfway through the term, everybody's happy about it. And you'll see why it's a good thing. If you haven't already figured out why it's a good thing, you'll see why it's a good thing very, very quickly. As far as when to turn them in, that question came up a little while ago. When do you turn quizzes in? It's a great question. Blackboard would give us a nice avenue for that, but I don't use Blackboard. So you have to turn stuff in class. The quizzes are posted online, except for this first one, at least a week in advance. So tomorrow at some point, I'll post next week's quiz. I'll have an idea of what should be on the first quiz. It's usually just a review, like a review of like percentages and fractions and things like that. Just stuff that we're going to start using right away. So you'll have a week to work on a quiz. So I have to do a little bit of mind reading sometime to see where we're going to be in a week. But I like to kind of have the quizzes be a continual review. So we've done something, we've gone over homework on something, then I put a quiz up on it. So we're constantly kind of revisiting things as we go through the course. So there's the speed we're going in class, and the quizzes, if you will, are kind of like this kind of look back while we're going forward. So that hyperlink in week 2 for the quiz will be posted, I'm thinking sometime tomorrow or early Wednesday morning. So you'll have an entire week to work on it. So who do you work on quizzes with?
Whoever you want.
Anybody you want to. Make a study group. Work with people in the class, work with tutors, work with me. Work with anybody you want to. Make sure you're turning in your absolute best work when you turn it in. When do you turn it in? Kind of a silly question. On its due date. Beginning of class when it's due. So Wednesday, you'll make a pile of quizzes up here somewhere of the quiz that's due. And I know I keep talking about the quiz that's due Wednesday, and we'll come to that. You'll all get perfect scores on it, and you'll see why momentarily. They're 10 points apiece. 10 points apiece. And I give at least 10 of them during the term, so it adds up to 100 points total, which is the same as an exam grading. And I say at least 10. You'll have more than 10. You'll probably end up having closer to 15 or 16 of them, which is fantastic for a whole host of reasons. Okay, yeah, Mike is nodding, he knows. Please.
Is it graded as extra credit? Or?
They're not extra credit because if you... Can I come back to that question?
Yeah.
It's a great question, and I want to make sure that you understand why. It seems like they're extra credit because they're optional, but there's an agreement you have to make when you turn one in, and I want to come back to it because it makes more sense with an example. Thank you. Okay? So that's quizzes. I've never had a student not do any quizzes. By and large, I have most students do almost all of the quizzes, if not all of the quizzes, and I've noticed a correlation, and I can't prove anything with this, but I've noticed a correlation. The more quizzes someone does, the higher their overall average is in the class. I can track that data, it's amazing. The more quizzes someone does, the higher their overall. That does not mean that the quizzes are causing the overall grade. It might just be an indicator of the fact that that student's a very, very good student and they do well in all aspects of their study. But there is definitely a link between the number of quizzes turned in and the overall grade. It's kind of sweet. It's kind of sweet. Cool, please.
I may have missed that, but how are we turning them in? Just
In class. You'll have at least a week to work on each one, and you bring them in the day they're due and drop them on the desk.
gotcha.
Cool. Next, quizzes are the oddball. So if you will, quizzes are how I grade your homework. You keep your homework. It's kind of like when I used to take drum lessons way back in the day. I've been playing drums for 30 years. And my drum instructor would give me a bunch of stuff to work on. I'd take it home with me and I'd practice. And the next week I'd come in, he'd be like, all right, and he'd kind of look at what he gave me, he's like, do that. And then he'd like spot check like 5 or 6 things. He's like, good, you got it, move on to the next thing. It's kind of what quizzes are too. I don't need to look at every single thing you're doing at every single point of the way. Some of that stuff you keep to yourself. You're kind of learning. We have the in-class discussions, we have office hours, we have email, we have all kinds of avenues for the discussion. And then you're kind of turning in, if you will, your best work at this little informal check-ins where the quizzes. Make sense? Good. We'll come back to an example which I hope will explain the whole extra credit versus non-extra credit thing. Let's move down to projects. There are 4 of those bad boys. We'll go back to the schedule page and find them. The first one's in week 3. There it is right there. The next one I think is in week 6. There it is. The next one's in week 8, right there. And the next one's in week 10. What these are is, where they are, they're topics that don't quite fit, even in a class as kind of varied as a 105. They don't quite fit as a section. They fit better as an individual self-led assessment. And that'll make a lot more sense when you actually get into them. Now, did you notice how every single one of them was hyperlinked? Every single one. The very first one in week 3 was called formulas. If you click on that, it pops up. And basically what this is it's, if you will, a small chapter, or a small section of a chapter of a textbook. A textbook that doesn't exist. Because the textbook is so varied in topic that no one would ever buy it. But here, this particular topic fits you guys beautifully at this point. At this point in the term, we're just getting ready, or you have just started the algebraic part of our course. And one thing I've noticed about students in almost all algebra students coming out of 95 is working with the idea of a literal equation or a formula, when you've got more than one variable and you have to move things around and solve for one of those variables, is just a weak spot for a lot of students. So I've made this kind of a self-paced explanatory project where it walks you through all those things you learned back in probably 60 and 65, and maybe even 95, but maybe it's one of those things you just need a new way of looking at it again. So this is a project on that. And this project, it's mostly, as you go through it, it's mostly kind of self-sped, self-guided, and then towards the end, you'll see something where it says points. There you go. 2 points each. 4 points. 3 points. Those points add up to 25 points. Each project is worth 25, and there's 4 of them all together, which again add up to 100, which is the same as an exam grade. And these guys are hyperlinked, ready to go for the entire term. The first one's due in week 3. You can start working on this right now. Not right now, it's kind of annoying for you to listen to one thing and do it. But you can start working on these tonight, or tomorrow, or Wednesday. I encourage you against working on it the night before it's due, because that never ends well. It shouldn't take you more than, I hate to put a time on something, it shouldn't take you more than one small section of time in one night to do. But it might take you 3 weeks to find, I know how busy your guys' schedules are, it might take you 3 weeks to find that section of time to sit down and do it. Which is why I like having these guys out and ready to go for the entire term. You can start any of these projects right now. They're all pretty much standalones. They're all standalones. So you can get in any of them. I would recommend doing them in order. I kind of put them in that order for a reason. So those are projects. I've given you answers on a bunch of them. There's some answers in red. I'd mark that up here. Some answers are given in red. You'll notice, why would I give you an answer to something that I'm asking you to turn in? And the idea, and we're going to come back to this, is this W in parentheses means show me how to get from here to here. The idea is to show me the mathematical steps to get from this to that. So having the answer there, it just gives you a target to shoot for. Your job is to show me algebraically how to get from one to the other. Cool? Are projects optional? No. I wouldn't make them optional because I have to give you a 0 on them. That sucks. You don't turn a quiz in, no harm, no foul. You don't turn a project in at 0 out of 25. But we'll come back to that as well when we do this exam. We're going to answer a lot of questions, I think, with the exam. So you'll notice they're scattered throughout the term. You got one in week 3, you got one in week 6, week 8. Who can you work on projects with?
Anybody.
Anybody you want to. Classmates, me, the tutors. The only rule I've instituted is you can't go to the tutoring lab the day before a project is due. And I had to start doing that, and I apologize. And I'm not saying you guys would have done this. But a couple terms ago, I started getting emails from the tutors down at the tutoring lab. What are you doing to your students? Nothing more than usual torture. And they said, they're all coming down here the day before these projects are due and getting upset with us because we're not helping them. And I realized they were kind of abusing they're out there ready for you guys. I mean, these projects are up right now for the entire term. And they're waiting until the day before, sometimes the night before, something's due at 8:15, and then slamming the tutors. And then getting upset with the tutors when the tutors were doing the tutor thing, which is not giving the answer, but helping them work towards the answer. And these students were just demanding the answers without actually wanting to learn anything. And that really upset me. So I had to invent a rule that said you can't go to the tutors the day before something's due. You can go 2 days before it's due, no problem. You just can't go down the day before it's due, or they'll tell you to go away. Nicely, they're nice people, but they'll ask you to leave. Yeah? Projects? Yeah? 4M? Good. How do you turn those in? How do you turn those in? Same as quizzes. Bring them in, make a pile. They their due. So that week 3, whatever day that was, Monday or Wednesday, just bring them in, drop them on the desk. You're good to go. Do them on scrap paper if that's better. You don't have to. You can type them up if you want to. I don't require that yet. We're getting to the point where some of the handwriting's getting kind of bad. But put them on scrap paper. Write it down. Just make sure I can follow everything. Yeah? Good so far? Okay. Let's go back out here. Last bit is exams. I tried an experiment last year. I think it went well. I used to give 3 in-class exams. Week 4, week 7, and then one in the end of class. The exam week 11, I guess. And that was fine. Pretty traditional. But I started noticing there was an awful lot of angst built up around exam time. So that's why I put them in weeks 4 and 7 in an exam week. I figured by giving 3 of them instead of 2, I spread the point load out over more things, which makes each one less. And it also hopefully doesn't coincide with other colleagues who are giving midterms and finals. Midterm in week 5 and finals in week 11. And a couple things happened. Number one, the angst level dropped off for a while, then rose back up again from students. And I get upset with myself when students get upset because of math anxiety. I know you feel it. I totally get that. And I'm trying to alleviate that as best I can. So I tried something new because the scheduling thing wasn't working either, because some of my colleagues started giving 3 exams versus 2. So then all of us were giving exams in week 4 and week 7, week 11. So instead of having strictly 3 exams in class, I've taken each exam and split it half and half. Half of the exam will be done in class, and half of the exam is done outside of class, where you can work with anybody else except for me. I'm the only person you can't work with on the out-of-class exams. So you'll notice, check this out. If you go to the schedule page, on week 4, your first exam will be on Monday of week 4. And that's 50 points of the 100 is done in class. And they're going to be fairly straightforward questions. Fairly computational, fairly straightforward. Not a lot of reading, if you will, because I don't want you to take the time and get nervous reading through that exam. A week later, you'll see, hyperlinked down here, oops, I forgot the link. Oh no, here it is, out of class portion. There it is. Sorry, week 4 is here. Exam 1 in class, exam 1 out of class. That'll be hyperlinked eventually, as soon as I know what's going to be on it. We're in the same boat here as we are everywhere else. I'm not exactly sure what's going to be on that exam yet. But I'll know a week and a half beforehand. So a week and a half beforehand, I'll be able to go in there and put the document in there so you can start working on it a week and a half beforehand. Work with your friends. Work with anybody you want, essentially. I haven't decided about the tutors yet. Some of them were complaining to me last year about students on the out-of-class exams. But you can definitely work with your classmates. You can definitely use online resources. No time commitment on the out-of-class part, okay? Why did I do this? Why did I do this?
Sort of like to get some of the anxiety.
Take some of the anxiety away. Did it work? Yeah. Students went completely ape for this. They love it. So I said, this is awesome. Let's make all the exams outside of class. And guess what I was told? Don't do that. I wanted to. I was like, the hell with this. Let's make everything outside of class. Let's make everything non-timed outside of class. And students said no. We want to have some of the individual accountability for ourselves, which completely caught me off guard. I'm like, oh, okay. I wasn't prepared for it. Exactly. That's kind of the face I made too. Like, oh, okay. But so every year I do a survey, and I'll do it with you guys too. And every year I collect the data, and every year I'm surprised. Or every term, I should say, not every year, every term. So we got some of the stuff in class, some of the stuff out of class. Okay.
Professor Waller gives all of his exams online and open book.
Yes. And that's what I was proposing, well, not the online part. But, I mean, I wonder if Mike's ever surveyed students, though, to find out about that. I'm gonna chit-chat with him. I've been working to do with him anyway. And it's one of those things. I like collecting data before I start a policy change. And that's, last year, I did the whole half and half, and then I did the surveys afterwards, and people went nuts for them. I was like, this is great. What do you say we change it up again? No. It got voted down. So, I mean, it's one thing to do it. It's one thing to have the students want to have it done. So, I'll chit-chat with Mike about it, see what he says. Who knows, maybe he has.
I think
Please.
you have a time limit.
On those slides, are we allowed to bring notes with the exam, or?
Any notes you'll need, I'll supply you with. This is a great aerial, right? This is a great question. Do you need notes on the exam? Anything you'll need, I'll supply it. Yeah, I'll supply. I mean, rather than what I've seen in the past, I've let students bring all their own notes and reference materials to exams, and they spend so much time flipping around looking for stuff. I'd rather just give you what you need up front on the exam itself, so you've got all that reference material. Yeah, you'll be fine. Trust me on this. I just watched it happen for a year, and it's a beautiful thing. So, I understand the math anxiety, and I'm trying to knock that down as best I can. Best I can, for sure. So, make sense so far? So there's 3 of those altogether, 3 in class, 3 out of class. So it's 100 points times 3 is 300 points. So now you're looking at, you got 300 points of exams, you've got 100 points of projects, and you've got 100 points of quizzes. At least 100 points of quizzes. So how do you figure your grade? How do you figure your grade out? Let's back out here.
Add them all up.
And then do what?
Divide by the total.
You divide by your total of what you could have had. So you suppose you've taken an exam and you've turned in a project and you've done 3 quizzes. How many total points is that? But you said no math on the first day rule. Yes. You're right, it's 155. 30 for the quizzes, 25 for the projects, 55 plus 100 for the, this gets tedious. I understand that. So what I've done is I've made a grading page. Here's the, I'm on a 10-point scale, that's all this says mathematically. But down here, you can actually put in your grades, and it'll kick out what your grade is at that point. So you don't have to worry about doing what we just did in our heads, plus the division. So let's make up a student, shall we? Let's make up a student. Let's say it's week 5. We've taken 1 exam. Week 5, how many quizzes have we done?
4.
We've done 4 or 5? Let's do 5. Let's do 5 and then back it up to 4. So we'll do 5. And by week 5, I think you've got 1 project in the bag at that point, I think. Okay, so right now, by entering that in, the computer now knows you have, what is that, 175 points. It's keeping track of that. So that's what you would divide into if you were doing this manually. But now let's give ourselves some grades. How do we do on the first exam? Both halves added together. Remember, it's out of 100. What do you think? 80? Boom. You said 80, not 80, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, good. How about quizzes? Remember, they're out of 10. 10. Love it. What else? 10? How about a 9? How about you had a crappy day and got a 1 on one of them? Just for the hell of it. And let's suppose, what's this last one? 6. All right, beautiful. And then that project, you kicked butt. You got a 25 on it. Okay, you got everything taken care of. You got 5 quizzes. Your exam, the order doesn't matter in here. It's all commutative. You can put it in any order you want to. Hit calculate. You are sitting, my friends, on an 80.5% right now.
Where is it at?
Down there at the very bottom. See where it says calculate?
Okay.
Boop, right there. You're sitting at 80.5%, which up here puts you in B range. With me so far? Here's why I make the quizzes optional. Okay? So, you came in this day. That day you got a 1 out of 5 on the quiz, or a 1 out of 10 on the quiz, and you knew it sucked. You didn't get a chance to sit with anybody. You didn't get a chance to check with anybody. You didn't even get a chance to sleep the night before because your dog was up all night throwing up. You had no coffee. You couldn't even download it until 5 minutes before class. You got your name on it. Maybe you got that right. So here's the option. If I make it optional, what you simply do is you erase that and you do your grade out of 4 quizzes instead of 5. Now watch. See what's happening to your grade? It's now almost an 85%. That's why optional quizzes are wonderful. Now, how are you going to know if the quiz you're turning in is good or not?
When you return it.
Well, before that, no. Because you want to be able to know that before you turn it in.
Because you talk about it in class.
I don't talk about quizzes in class. I will talk about quizzes when, though? Office hours, yes. Where else? Where else can you and I have a discussion about quizzes? Email, yes. Email on the phone if you'd like. Who else can you have discussions with quizzes with? Tutors. Who else? Classmates. You see? By sitting down. Here's a bit of probability that we'll get into in this class. If you're all sitting around doing quizzes together, and you're all convincing yourself that you're doing it correctly, and you're all kind of doing roughly the same thing, getting roughly the same answers, the same kinds of answers, the chance of every single one of you being wrong shrinks to 0. Think about that. The chance of every single one of you being wrong, and the more people you bring into your group that are kind of, if you will, reinforcing that idea, the chance gets even more 0 and more 0 and more 0. That's why I want you to make those study groups and make those bonds and make those learning communities, if you will. Please.
So you can't decide if you want to opt out of the test after you turn it in.
Correct. As soon as you turn it in, tell me your name again. Jacob. Back to Jacob's point about is it extra credit or not? It's not extra credit. As soon as you hand it in, it goes into that denominator of your grade. Remember how I said if you've done 3 quizzes, a project, and an exam, how many points you got? 135. As soon as you turn that quiz in, it becomes 145 in the denominator. That's why it's not extra credit. Extra credit would only add to the numerator of the fraction, if that makes sense. And I do offer that from time to time as we go through. We'll talk more about that too as we go through today. But as soon as you turn that quiz in, you've agreed to let me grade it, and you've agreed to let that denominator go up by 10 points. Is that fair? But you can decide up till the moment you turn it in. As you're walking up, you're looking at people going, I don't right, no, I'm going to walk back now. And there's a desk there. Yes?
Is there a way within the system
Free law over
to
here.
get infinite points?
Well, theoretically, no. But the problem is, I don't know how far away from 100 it goes, depending on the number of quizzes that you choose to attempt, the number of extra credit points you attempt and get correct. So it only heads off towards infinity.
There's going to be some sci-fi malarkey out there.
That's okay. That's all right. That's why we got it. We got it. I saw a hand. I thought, please.
So, like, if you feel like you're struggling with the quiz, you should probably not turn it.
That's what I'm saying. If you're not 100% confident that quiz is your best effort, hold on to it. You can always ask me at break or after class or in office hours. I want you to learn the material, but I don't want you to be penalized for not getting it right at that time of assessment. It's also why I give you the week to work on it. So you have plenty of time to form those study groups and to form, like I said, those little learning communities, if you will. Good-ish? You see what's going on? Now, of course, the ideal would be to take the quiz. Now watch, this is not as impressive. Suppose I got a 10 on that quiz. Now watch your average again. It popped up again. But by no means did it pop up as exceptionally as it did when you went from a 1 to not turning it in. And that's because, if you think about it, you got an 80 out of 100. That's a pretty good grade. You got a 10 out of 10. That's a pretty good grade. 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 6 out of 10, 25 out of 25. Those were really good grades. A 10 out of 10 is more in line with that. The 1 out of 10 was what we call an outlier. It was way too low, therefore it dragged your average way down. The one being in line with your average isn't going to change it all that much because you're already there anyway. You see what I'm saying? If for extra credit points, if I could give you like a 25 out of 10 quiz, you'd see your average rocket through the roof. I just don't do that. Because I scatter enough extra credit throughout the term, and you'll find it as you guys work through your work. Please!
You said that we have a quiz on Wednesday.
You do! Give me 5 more minutes, we'll get to that. I promised 20 minutes a while ago, and I got sidetracked a couple times. We'll get to that. Don't you dare.
Okay.
Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Any questions on grading? Let me back out to the assessment page again. Any questions on this? Don't you be nervous. Okay? So, the quiz on Wednesday. You'll notice there is a quiz on Wednesday. It is on this page. This is the only quiz this term that's not strictly mathematics based. This is like the 10 Commandments page. Thou shalt not, thou shalt not. I'm not going to read this to you right now. There's too much of it. So, rather than read it to you, that's what the quiz on Wednesday is about. It's the first day page. It's a true-false quiz on that page. So up there, it tells you how to get to it. Up there, it tells you how to get to it. Click on Rules Hints. That's true-false. I will most likely forget anything said to me before or after class. True or false. Assignments turned in late and still receive full credit. True or false. If I didn't communicate with you, I will email you. True or false. If you miss class, blah, 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 blah. Every single one of those answers can be found on the Rules Hints page. This is my way of making you go read the page without reading it to you. You bastard. Yes. Do you have to turn this quiz in on Wednesday? No, it's optional. It's optional, right? But what the hell, do it? Because you're all going to get 10 out of 10 on this. Assuming you read the page and actually do the, you know what I'm saying? You see what I'm getting at here, friends? This is a good thing. This is a very, very, very good thing. So, this is your first, and like I said, I'll post a quiz for next week. I'll probably even post 2 quizzes for next week. We'll just see. I mean, this is the beauty of having optional quizzes. Like I post 3 or 4, and you could do as many or as few as you want. Some students do them all, and like I said, there's a correlation. The more you do, the higher your grade goes. That's the correlation. I'm not saying it works for everybody, I'm saying that works on average. That's the average, what I've averagely noted as the course goes on. Yeah? So do you have to do this? No. Should you?
Yeah.
I would. It's a guaranteed 10 out of 10, as long as you read carefully. Read them carefully, yes? Okay? So, worry no more about that quiz on Wednesday. It's the only one that's non-mathematical, and this is the reason why, because I can't give you a math quiz on the first day of class. That's not right. Okay, enrichment, this is a page, Micah, you mentioned Khan Academy. What I've done on this page, essentially, is I've linked a bunch of sources for math help. Okay, there's Khan Academy right there at the top. You got Apprentice Hall, students, Ask Dr. Math, Purple Math Hippocampus. Honestly, what I've discovered is if you need math help, it's 2 in the morning. And this isn't just math, you need academic help, it's 2 in the morning. You're sitting working on a paper, you're working on a project, you need something to get done. Google will always be, in my opinion, the greatest tool to help you. Type exactly what you need in that bar, hit go, and start looking at the first 10 hits. Please.
Have you heard of Number File?
No.
It's a series of YouTube videos that explain like math.
Is it ish like Khan Academy, or?
I have no idea what mine.
Okay, because it sounds similar. Number file, this is good. This is good. FILE file? Or PHILE, like audio file.
Yeah, I think
Big
so.
PHILE.
Yeah.
So it's Khan Academy started, it's a very interesting story. His I think it was his niece was bi-coastal. He was in, I think, California or New York, and she was on the other coast. And she needed math help, so to help her, he recorded a bunch of tutorial videos and just started posting them on YouTube. And then she would go to the links and look at the links, and it would help her with the math. And Bill Gates caught wind of this. And it's like, dude, I'm going to throw a bunch of money your way from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and you need to make this an educational resource that's free to everybody. And Khan was like, Bill Gates throw me money, let's do this. And hence Khan Academy. So you've got this beautiful resource with tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of videos now that are all posted. I think Khan does every single one of them. I'm pretty sure the same guy actually does every single video. And it's just little 2 and 3 minute clips. And eventually I have a few of them up myself that I'm kind of modeling out.